Have you noticed something strange happening in the housing market lately? I am feeling the heat. On one side, tenants are saying that the rent is unaffordable. On the other side, landlords are saying cash flow is disappearing. Both sides are claiming they are getting squeezed. But here's the question nobody seems to be asking. If the pressure keeps building, who breaks first? The tenants or the landlords? Are you, my investor friends, also feeling the squeeze like I am? Because one side is about to hit a wall. And by the end of this video, I want to show you why the answer may not be what most people think. In fact, there are several warning signs already appearing across the country. Some landlords are selling, some tenants are moving back in with their families, some markets are seeing vacancies rise, others are still seeing bidding wars. So, what exactly is happening? And more importantly, what happens next? I want to go over 2 use cases where I tried increasing the rent of my tenants and I had a nightmare time. One of the tenants is in Virginia, the other one is here in Charlotte. I'll show you how the game was played out. Let's get into it. Hey everyone, if you don't know me or are new to my channel, my name is Vikram Chopra. I was an investment banker turned broker in the Greater Charlotte metropolitan area, where I live and assist other investors reach their financial goals through real estate investing. When people talk about housing, they usually focus on the home prices. But that is not where the real battle is happening right now. The real battle is happening every single month. It's happening when the rent is due. It's happening when the mortgage payment comes out. It's happening when insurance renews. It's happening when property taxes rise. And it's happening when tenants look at their bank accounts and realize they have less money left over than they did a year ago. That's the battlefield. And right now, both sides are taking hits. But before we decide who is more vulnerable, let's talk about the tenants first, because the tenant side of the story is fascinating. For years, rent climbed faster than the wages in many areas. A tenant who was paying $1,200 a month suddenly found themselves paying $1,500, then $1,700, then $1,900. What the hell? At first, many people absorbed that increase. They cut back on vacations, they cut back on restaurants, they cut back on entertainment. But eventually something happens. You run out of things to cut, and that is where many households are today. The average renter isn't just dealing with the rent, they are dealing with groceries, car insurance, health insurance, childcare, credit card debt, student loan debt, and every one of those categories has become more expensive. So here's the question, how much more can tenants realistically absorb the hit? Because there is always a ceiling, and once that ceiling is reached, behavior starts changing. We're already seeing the signs: more roommates, more multi-generational households, more people delaying moving out, more people downsizing, more people relocating to cheaper markets. Those are pressure release valves. But eventually those solutions get exhausted too. Now here's where things get interesting. Because if tenants are struggling, wouldn't that automatically mean the landlords win? Not so fast. Because landlords are facing a completely different problem. A problem many people don't fully understand. Most people think landlords become wealthier every time rent increases. But that's only half of the story. Because expenses have exploded. Property taxes in many areas have gone up. Insurance costs have skyrocketed. Maintenance costs are significantly higher. Contractors cost way more now. Material costs, labor costs, anything you can think of has gone up through the roofs. And let's not forget the interest rates. This is where the story takes a major turn. Because thousands of landlords purchased properties when the money was cheap. Some were borrowing at 3%, others at 4%, some even lower. Today, the financing environment looks completely different, and that creates a huge divide between the old landlords and the new landlords. An investor who locked in a lower mortgage rate years ago may still be doing very well, but an investor buying today often faces a completely different math equation. And that's why some landlords are thriving, others are struggling. And that's why there's nothing more important than a positive cash flowing property. Remember that. The headlines don't tell you that. They lump everything together, but they're not the same, not even close. Now, here's the question that could determine the future of the rental market. What happens when landlords can no longer raise the rents enough to offset the rising cost? Guess what? Think about it. Because that's the point where the business model gets squeezed. Tenants can't afford higher rents, landlords need higher rents. Something has to give in, and that's where the real market shock begins. Let's look at the first use case. I have a tenant who is renting a townhome from me here in Charlotte. We will call her Miss X. She's been living in that house for 3 years now. She's a Section 8 tenant. She's really nice. The house is in a D category neighborhood. Previous tenants were busted for dealing in drugs. I've heard over the years that gunshots are common in that area. It is not easy to put a tenant in that house. I got that house for $77,000 and her rent is $1,300 a month. So I'm already shattering the 1% rule of investing here. The tenants who live in similar houses nearby pay close to $1,100 a month. So I'm already fetching a good rent, but I want more. And why shouldn't I try? I've had to deal with a million problems with this house before she moved in. Anyways, I sent her a text message where I'm telling her that the rent will go up by $200. I mean, it's been 3 years at the same rent, so an increase is due. You can read it here. I explained that everything has become more expensive now. As soon as I sent her the text, she started going over all her personal problems with me. And she is right. She mentions that the minimum wage hasn't gone up here in North Carolina. She has been accepting jobs that pay less and is working way too hard for way too less money. I wouldn't do that. And now her arthritis has spread to her spine too. With the $200 increase every month, she won't be able to afford the house anymore and may have to move out. Guess what? When I read that, my phone almost slipped out of my hands. Here, I was trying to increase the rent and she decided to pack up and leave. Oh my God, what happened? And this is happening with a lot of tenants across America. Now I am shocked and I'm trying to get out of the situation. I tell her, oh, you've been so nice to me over the years. I wouldn't want you to leave, love. And then she sends me a message of all the blessings that are there in this world. That's how that saga ended. I did not increase the rent and she is happy. Do you know the wealthy people in this business accumulate wealth because they keep a tenant in there for infinite number of years? I made a video on that. You should check it out here. By the way, if you're a beginner or an investor and are looking for guidance on how to get started in real estate investing, feel free to book a 20-minute phone call with me. Link below in the description. Let's look at the second use case. And spoiler alert, I got cooked here too. In fact, in this case, I started taking a monthly loss. Yeah. Who said this business is easy? I have a tenant who's renting a condo from me in Falls Church, Virginia. We will call her Miss Y. She's been living in that house for 2 years now. Her monthly rent is $1,976. With the high taxes, insurance, and HOA, I was barely making any money on this property. The cash flow was just $132 every month. That's measly. That's peanuts. That is a tip people like Elon Musk leave on the bar. Anyways, she sends me a message that because of AI, robotics, and automation, her hours at her job place have reduced. The place where she was working has bought in robots to do her job, and so her hours were cut down to half. She has been applying to various jobs, but she can't find anything. See, AI is making rich people wealthier, but leaving the lower middle class people broke. What an irony in our life. Now, if she leaves, the house remains empty for at least 1 month. The mortgage and HOA are a total of $1,844, which is still due. Plus, once she leaves, the house will need work, which will at least cost me $2,000. Plus, oh my God, I'm getting tired of these pluses. The realtor will charge half a month of rent, which will be another $1,000. So, if she leaves, I'm looking at an expense of $5,000 at least, plus the uncertainty of an unknown tenant who comes in next after her. I have two options here. Either let her go or lower the rent. I decided to lower the rent. So I proposed $1,700 a month for a 6 months lease, and I can raise it in 6 months when things improve. And this Miss Y is a smart cookie. She counters offers me. She goes, I'll pay you $1,600 for 2 years lease. What the hell, man? Now I'm pissed. So I send her a copy of the mortgage and the HOA statement to her, and I show her that I pay $1,844.1844 and that I won't go less than $1,700. If you want to leave, feel free. Only after I put down my foot, she agreed on $1,700. And that's not all. In 2 months, Ice got hold of her mom. So she had to leave and move into her mom's house to take care of her siblings. See, my investor friends, ain't our life amazing and challenging and not meant for the weak? When I meet people at work or others at a party and they ask me what I do, I tell them that I'm a real estate investor. Their first reaction is generally, wow. And then I observe them over the next few hours. I can almost certainly tell you before the party ends if he has what it takes to become an investor like me. And 90% of the time, the answer is a no. That's why if you're planning to invest money in real estate, go ahead and book that free 20-minute call with me. We can look at your deal together. And there is a trend. Let's look at what usually happens during periods like this. First, the weaker tenants fall behind. Then the collections become harder. Vacancies rise. Turnovers increase. Maintenance gets deferred. Landlords become more selective. And eventually, some owners decide the headache isn't worth it. That's when the listings start appearing. Not because the owners want to sell, because they feel forced to sell. There's a huge difference. Forced sellers creates opportunities. Voluntary sellers create inventory, and right now investors everywhere are watching for signs that forced selling is increasing. But here's the twist. Many landlords have enormous equity. They are not over-leveraged. They are not desperate, which means they can often survive longer than other people expect. This is where many housing predictions go wrong. People assume pain automatically creates panic, but that's not always true. Someone who owns a property free and clear can absorb losses for a long time. Someone with significant equity can wait. Someone with strong cash reserves can ride out storms. So, if a landlord isn't collapsing immediately, could tenants be the one who breaks first? Maybe, but not necessarily, because tenants have one advantage landlords don't have, and that is mobility. A tenant can move. Just like Miss X, a landlord can't move the property. A tenant can get roommates. A tenant can relocate. A tenant can move temporarily. A tenant can switch jobs in cities. That flexibility matters. Which brings us to one of the biggest questions nobody's talking about. What happens if large numbers of tenants simply refuse expensive markets altogether? Think about cities that have become extremely expensive, like New York, Los Angeles. What happens if enough people leave? Demand drops, vacancies rise, rent growth slows down. Landlords compete harder, concessions returns, suddenly the balance of power starts shifting. And we're already seeing hints of this in certain markets. But before you assume tenants are gaining leverage, there is another factor you need to understand, and that is housing supply. Because supply changes everything. For years, many markets simply had enough housing. That shortage gave landlords tremendous power. But what happens when new apartment construction floods certain markets? The answer is simple. Competition increases, landlords fight for tenants, move-in specials start appearing, rent growth slows down. Occupancy becomes more important than maximizing rent, and that changes the entire conversation. That's why if you have questions, doubts, concerns, go ahead and book that free 20-minute call with me. Now, here's the million-dollar question. Will the supply arrive fast enough to help tenants, or will economic stress hit first? Because timings matters a lot. If supply arrives before tenants reach the breaking point, pressure eases. If tenants break first, the outcome looks very different, and that's why predicting housing is so difficult. It's not just about one variable, it's about multiple forces colliding at the same time at the same spot. That's why having a home in a growing market is super important. I made a video of all the places in Charlotte that are still affordable. You can check it out. Let's talk about another group that's quietly shaping the market, the small landlords. Landlords like you and me, we are not corporates. These are not giant corporations. These are regular people, teachers, engineers, retirees, families, people who own one rental, maybe two, maybe three, and many of them entered real estate believing it would be relatively passive, but oh my God. Then the insurance doubled, the taxes increased, repairs have exploded, and suddenly the numbers look very different. For some of these owners, one bad tenant can erase an entire year's profit. One HVAC replacement can wipe out cash reserves. One roof can become a financial emergency. Those owners are vulnerable and they're often the first to exit. Now, compare them to large institutional investors. They have scale, systems, teams, capital, data, negotiating power. They can survive periods that might overwhelm smaller operators, which raises another question. If small landlords exit, who buys the properties? You, my investor friend, my smart investor friend who is always buying a positive cash flowing house, that's something very few people discuss, because ownership may change even if housing doesn't disappear, and that distinction matters. Now, let's zoom out even further, because the real issue may not be landlords or the tenants. The real issue may be affordability. Affordability is the foundation of the entire housing system. Once that breaks down, everyone feels a zing. Tenants struggle, landlords struggle, employers struggle, cities struggle, economic activity struggles, economic growth slows down. People delay major life decisions, family postpone home purchases, population growth pattern changes, everything becomes connected. And when affordability reaches extreme levels, markets eventually adjust. The question is how though? Will rents fall? Will wages rise? Will housing supply increase? Will investors leave? Nobody knows for sure. But history tells us markets eventually find balance. The path to that balance is usually messy. Now, here's a scenario that might surprise you. What if neither side collapses? What if both sides simply suffer? Think about that. Landlords earn less than expected, tenants pay more than they like, neither group wins, neither group loses completely. Instead, everyone experiences a slow grind. That outcome is usually more common than dramatic crashes. Instead, everyone experiences a slow grind. Markets often move through long periods of frustration rather than a sudden collapse. And frankly, that's what we are seeing in many places today. Not a crash, not a boom, a squeeze, a very uncomfortable squeeze, but eventually the squeeze ends. Which brings us to the final question. If you're watching this, what should you be paying attention to right now? Not headlines, not social media predictions. Watch for these 5 things. Number 1, vacancy rates. Vacancies tell you who has leverage, landlords or tenants. Number 2, rent growth. If the rent stops growing, that's a major signal. Number 3, new construction. Supply changes the game. Number 4, employment. Jobs drive housing demands. Number 5, distressed sales. Watch carefully for increases. Those 5 indicators will tell you more than most headlines ever will. And here's my personal view. I do not think we are heading towards a situation where all landlords crumble like a cookie. I don't think so we are heading towards a situation where all tenants crumble either. I think we are entering a period where the weak participants on both sides struggle. Weak landlords struggle, weak tenants struggle. Poorly managed properties, over-leveraged investments, financially stretched households, those are the areas where pressure shows up first. Meanwhile, the financially strong landlords and the financially stable tenants will likely continue moving forward. The market isn't one giant group. It's thousands of different situations happening simultaneously. And that's exactly why so many predictions fail. Because they assume everyone is experiencing the same reality. They are not. Some landlords are making more money than ever. In some homes, I'm making a killing. And in some homes, I'm barely breaking even. That's the nature of the beast. Others are barely surviving. Some tenants are thriving. Others are drowning. The averages hide out the truth. So, when someone asks which side will crumble, landlords or tenants, the better question may be which landlords and which tenants, because that's where the real story is. And the answer to that question may determine who builds wealth over the next decade and who gets left behind. The market shock is already here. Most people just haven't recognized it yet. And what happens over the next few years could create some of the biggest opportunities and the biggest mistakes we have seen in a very long time. So, keep your eyes open, watch the data, ignore the noise, and remember, in every market cycle, there are winners, usually people who understand what's happening before everyone else does. And right now, the battle between the landlords and tenants is only getting started. And I'm not the one on the losing side, no, never. And if you think you can retire on real estate income, go ahead and watch my video on the real cost of retiring on rental properties. So until next time, this is Vikram signing off. Good luck, goodbye, and go earn your freedom by not letting the tenants take you for a ride.